Welcome to 30 Minutes with Combat Mission Black Sea. Now this is the new game family from Battlefront, and we have returned to the modern era, well, a little bit into the future actually, because this is set in 2017. We're still using the CM2 engine, and it's version 3 as with the other games at the moment. First of all, I just want to say very quickly that it's very sad and worrying what's going on in the Ukraine at the moment, at the time that I'm making this video. And some people might be thinking that Battlefront are taking a little bit of an advantage of the current events occurring around the world. What I would just want to say is that it is not unusual for serious war games to either be created based on plausible future events. There is a thread on Battlefront's forums where they explain that they started to design this back in 2009. I'll include a link to that for anyone that's interested. So basically that's all I want to say on the subject, so let's get on with the video. Now, just off the back, I would just want to say that this is not a review. This is an overview of this war game. Okay, so I'd also just like to say that for those of you new to this series or new to modern warfare in this series, Battlefront have created several tutorial videos. I think it's in the region of 20 actually, which have all been cut from a live stream that was made by them, going through the tutorial campaign. I do recommend viewing those if you are a little bit unsure, or there are certain aspects you're not too sure about. It's quite comprehensive, and as I said, it's based on the campaign tutorial. Basically, we're looking at the US and Ukrainian forces versus Russia, and as I said, it's 2017 in the months June, July and August. Now I will apologise straight up front because my machine is very old. I think I've got something like a 3.2 gigahertz dual core. I have recently had to replace my graphics card. I've got a little bit of an upgrade on that, but these games tend to be more CPU intense rather than graphics card intense. So the possibility is, if you've got a really fast graphics card and you're still suffering problems, you might want to look at your CPU. And something else you need to think about is that this is a 32-bit game and uses one core. I'm going to go through the different aspects of the game now, see what we have. But I'm going to do it in a bit of an odd order, but I hope you'll understand why I'm doing this. So going to options first of all. So it's all the usual options that we've seen before. Obviously it's quite new for new players. I just want to take you into controls. Now this is nothing new, we've seen this in the previous games, but I want to highlight a few things for people. Here we've got all the binding controls, and if you click on them you can obviously change them to what you want. There are some that have not been set up. If we go across here, we can see we've got camera keys we can change, and here we can see we've got RTS and FPS, although they look very similar. Now camera config down here, we can use in-game standard, RTS style or FPS style. So this game is actually giving you your choice of the way you want to interface with it, which has to be a good thing. But now I'm going to come up with a little bit of a criticism. There's no cancel button, it's just the OK button. There's no reset to default button. So if you muck up these bindings, you are going to have problems. I know it's just a cosmetic thing and maybe it's a bit difficult for them to do. I was hoping that they'd get round to it at some point. Maybe it is on their list, but it's very low down. Okay, now I'm going to go into the scenario editor. Right, so we've got here all the usual options on the AI side of it, we've got the 5 plans for the blue side, the red side. Groups are still at 16. I haven't looked into the triggers to see if they've expanded upon them. I'll have a play about with that at a little while in the future. So let's go back to the map because I just want to go over a few things here. Another thing I would have liked to have seen, but again I suppose it might be very low down on their list, or it could be that it's too difficult to do. And that's to be able to click into these size areas and be able to put in my own sizes that I want to immediately expand it. It's no big deal really, but if you want to do a really big map, it's a bit annoying. But you could always create a very large map template and just save that and then load that sort of thing in for future use. Anyway, let's get on to some stats. The maximum square size that you can create for a map is 4,256 by 4,256. If you want a really wide battlefield, the largest size you can have is 8,000 and maximum depth is 2,256. Equally, if you want a really deep map, the width is limited to 2,256 and the depth is 8,000 meters. Makes sense, doesn't it? On here, let's just go into the load and we are going to click on battle maps. Okay, so we're in the battle maps here, and these are the ones that will be used in quick battles, which we'll look at a bit later, but I want to do this here now. Now, one of the things I do like is this new formatting for the names, where they're actually including the specific sizes of the maps, which I really do like that they are solidly doing this. There are 330 maps listed here, but what you'll see is that say like this village water one, we've got number 254 assault, 254 attack, 254 probe. So this is the same map, but it's a different battle type, and these battle types in quick battle will dictate the number of points each side has to spend on units. So it's not really 330 separate maps. We've also got meeting maps. I've not really checked these out totally to see if they are just iterations of others. You can see this one isn't. So there is some extra maps lurking around in there, so it's not quite it's not 330 different maps basically. That said, if you think in terms of it's probably about maybe 130 maps, separate maps, maybe 150, that's still a lot. And if you consider that most battles are going to take an hour, maybe 2 hours to do, especially if you use the WeGo option, that's about 300 hours of gameplay. And a lot of games these days don't give you anywhere near that amount of time in terms of gameplay, and this is just the quick battles. Okay, let's go into quick battle now, and it's the usual options. Okay, so again, 2017, covering 3 months, June, July, August, so there's no winter warfare. I don't know whether that might come along in future modules. We'll have to see and maybe hope. As you can see, we've got a choice of US Army, Russian Army or Ukrainian Army, as I said. Right, now just for newcomers to this gaming system, let's just hit the OK button. As you can see, we've got here the selection of maps we can choose. I'm going to hit the fight button. I'm going to do this very quickly. Choose blue. Now we come to the game type, so we've got real-time, turn-based or WeGo. Then you've got the 2-player hot seat, email and real-time LAN and internet and turn-based internet LAN. Skill mode. Now we go scenario author test, which is basically fog of war off. You can't use this in multiplayer. Basic training, veteran warrior, elite, iron. Now this this range of difficulty is nothing to do with how your troops act on the battlefield. It's no extra hit points or anything like that. And what I mean by that is basic training. If you call in, say, an Apache helicopter strike, that's going to happen almost instantly, within a minute, maybe 2 minutes. You go up to Iron mode, and at that point it's more realistic. And calling in an Apache is going to take several minutes before it turns up and starts its attack run. Battles. Okay, so we've got 21 battles, and they all vary in size. From tiny, there are 3, small 5, medium 8, and large 5. Tiny ones tend to be less than an hour. There's no hard and fast rule really on time. Small tend to be about an hour to maybe even an hour and a half. Then medium, sort of an hour to 2 hours, and then you get up onto the large ones, which tend to be 2 hours plus. Okay, the next thing we're going to look at is the campaigns. There are 4 campaigns. You can see we've got the training campaign, but let's go from the top downwards. We've got crossing the Dnieper, and I apologise if I mispronounce anything. This is a Russian campaign, medium size, 5 scenarios. The second one, Task Force 369, is a USA campaign. It's medium size again, and it's 5 scenarios. Then we have the Shield of Kiev, which is a Ukrainian campaign. It's medium size, and it's 4 scenarios. The training campaign, and I do encourage you to do this, is tiny in size and consists of 4 scenarios. The first 3 scenarios all occur on gunnery range. Now the first 2, basic gunnery range, advanced gunnery range, the enemy does not fire back at you, so you're pretty much able to do whatever you want to do within the confines of the assets that you have and the enemy there. The third one, fire support range, they will shoot back. And the same goes for practical exercise, which is the 4th scenario, and that is more like a conventional battle. Now each of the first 3 scenarios do progressively take you through the use of different troops and assets. So it's quite a nice little progression. Let's just have a quick look into a battle, just to give new players a little bit more of an idea of some of the options they should look at when they first start. Okay, so I've come straight into the battle rather than going through the briefing screen, which we'll have a quick look at in a moment or two. And this is basically aimed at, this part of the video is basically aimed at very new players, more or less. Now, if you click on any unit, you can do this by clicking on the icon. I'm not going to go into too much detail on the really basic stuff. You can look at the training videos produced by Battlefront for that. I might do a really basic thing, but I don't know yet. Okay, now the way this panel looks, you've got the squad and different conditions and the weapons that they have. The way you issue commands, you've got these 4 panels down here: movement, combat, special, and admin. You do have the hotkeys on the buttons that you can use instead if you want, so you've got that choice. You can use these panels, which I prefer to use, or you can use the hotkeys, and this isn't new to Black Sea, this does occur in the other combat mission games. If you press the spacebar, you get the panels basically coming up on the screen, sort of centralized with the unit. And then you just sort of hover over and you can choose what you want, the order you want to issue to the unit. Now to get rid of that leg, you just hit backspace and it disappears. Okay, that's all I'm going to say on the use of the command buttons here and the choices that you have. The other thing that I think is important for new players to be aware of is this menus button. Here you've got save, which obviously speaks for itself. Ceasefire, you issue a ceasefire command. If you're playing against the AI, they will ceasefire immediately. If you're playing against another player, you've got to wait for them to hit the ceasefire button as well. Surrender, obviously you're just giving up straight away. Conditions, it shows you the current conditions of the battlefield that you're playing on, and to get rid of that you just left click. Briefing, you can go back into the briefing and look at the briefing. Quit obviously speaks for itself. Now the final one, hotkeys. On here you can see that you've got listed all the hotkeys if you need a reminder of the setup. As you can see also down here, you can quickly change the panels if you want to. But the important thing I wanted to bring up is these toggles. Now these toggles can help to alleviate some pain you might have in terms of frame rates if you want, sort of turning off shadows and stuff. But you've also got some other interesting things like camera shake. That's got 3 settings. It's off, light or full on. Floating icons, you can switch those off for your units. For all units you can switch them off for your units, but leave the icons for the enemy floating away. Show objectives, landmarks, all move paths, which I like to have on. Vehicle hit text if you don't like that. Something that people don't notice so much is the toggle artificially bright night graphics. That's if you're playing a nighttime battle and it's a bit dark for you to see. Then if you turn this on, and you can have it on all the time, it won't affect daytime battles. If you turn that on, it gives a nice glow to the ground, and which is pleasing. It's not unpleasant to watch, and so it gives you an alternative to how you play the game, which is good. That's been around for a while. This is not new to Black Sea, I would add again. The movie lighting option, as always. The visible command links, which came in with Red Thunder and the version 3 of the engine. And finally, quick battle. And it's very easy to do. You'll see up here when I change these, the text indicating. Let's go across to some wooded area just to show this. So to change the trees, you hit the Alt-T, and you can see, because I had them on full, they've totally disappeared now. If I click on once, show trees and nearby trunks only, and trees are fully on. Now this means that at the end of the battle, if you're going through the units and looking at the stats, and you switch the trees on to make it more easier to see the units, etc., and click on them, and then you quit out, this is now persistent. So when you now then start another battle, you'll have the trees off. And I know some people go, oh no, look what's happened to my game, all the trees have disappeared, what do I do? And it's just simply because you've toggled them off, and it's persistent between battles. So once you get it all set up, all the toggles, etc., you don't have to worry about starting each new battle and having to do the whole thing again. It's there, it's done. So anyway, that's it for me on this overview of Combat Mission Black Sea. I hope you've enjoyed it, and thanks very much for watching.